name is Dennis Shulobo. I'm the entomologist working with the district local government, fighting many vectors that are transmitting diseases in the district. Here we are at the facility in a Akonyi village, and just right in front here we have some patients who have come and they are not okay. So I want to talk to this gentleman here. Sir, what's your name? Yes, Jimmy. What problem do you have that has brought you to health facility here?
The problem mostly on my children. So far I have two children. Then one is 5 years, then the other one is 2 years. But mostly malaria is a problem. My child keep on complaining the issues of fever. Then even at night, we keep putting this cloth. We just cool the temperature, but the child condition is coming back. Even sometimes we see like convulsion. Then we just come to the clinic to help us. Because when we go to the government hospital, we have those challenges. They just refer us. Even I have the referral, they send us to go and buy the drugs from the clinic. Like me, I'm a farmer. We do investment seasonal. So I could say I got like 60,000 monthly.
Okay,
yeah.
60,000 and 30,000 you have to spend it on treatment of malaria in your family.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand it is very difficult. So let me get inside and I talk to the physician who is attending to the patient coming here.
I'm called Dr. Grace, Northern Uganda, in Akonyi village. I'm the only physician in this area. We have been receiving cases of malaria, like 29 cases of malaria daily.
How about now? Is it still at that rate or there is some reduction?
No, it's not. It's not. It has reduced.
How many people are you getting now daily?
We are now getting like 5
people. Okay. What do you think has led to this reduction?
So what it has led to this reduction, since the intervention of seek and destroy, it has been intervened here. At least we have reduction of cases. It has reduced from 29 to 4.
Okay.
4 cases daily. So we are not so hectic. I'm the only one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I understand you have quite a number of patients that you have to attend to. Maybe anything you want to tell me before I want to give you time to continue with your work.
I would like to thank the College of Public Health, University of South Florida to intervene, seek and destroy. It has helped us a lot because now the children are not dying as usual and the cases are not all that many. At least, so we would like to thank Dr. Ben for helping us to introduce this seek and destroy.
Hi, this is Ben. We're back here in Akonyi village in northern Uganda. I will be again looking at how the usage of drones to identify and predict habitats of malaria here in this village. In this series we will be looking at specific type of flight patterns, especially seasonally. How do we navigate, for example, through canopy and of course through shaded clouds. So what we want to do here is talk a little bit about some of the strategies that we're going to be applying to localize where these habitats are so that we can use soil substrate to knock down these habitats to lower malaria prevalence in this village. So with that, we'll just begin with the drone flights. Thank you very much. So one of the things that we'll be doing here is looking at how the drone is actually going to navigate through canopy and through specific areas that may be a little bit difficult to access. So I'm here with Colin, as you remember from the previous series. Colin, let me ask you, what are we doing about canopy cover around the breeding habitats, especially the ones that are semi-covered by canopy?
Yes, thank you. Actually, the drone is designed in the format that it's able to maneuver through tree branches where there's space. That's give high chance for us to track down what we desire in even congested area, because the canopies, these are single stand trees which are normally in the villages where we move. They are all over, because this is a village not yet it's not established by so many buildings. That's why we can see trees. So we are able to move the drone through the remote operations to go through in where there are tree space, whereby I can lift it up and down and through vertical axis or horizontal. That's to say.
So we were able to find habitats, what Colin is saying, regardless of where they are or what position they are. Is that what we're saying, basically, regardless of canopy?
Yeah, thereby we have these habitats where there are these canopies, and we are able to drive in the drone to go through those places. And even when there's rainfall, there's a high chance that, because this drone was designed waterproof, it's able to resist the water, the rainfall that is falling from the sky. But it depends on the amount of the rainfall that is falling, because it's not so heavy that can resist heavy rainfall. There are certain moments that we have to bring it down when we see that the heavy rainfall. That's how we can really operate drone in these areas.
So, in other words, regardless of the season, because we know that in northern Uganda you have pre-rain, you have a heavy rainfall season and dry season. What you're saying basically, Colin, is we can access or map these sites, the capture points, and then actually predict these habitats using our drone and the app to be able to find these habitats. So this is key to what we're doing, because we know malaria is seasonal. We know that during certain particular times of the year we're going to have more productive habitats. Now the key to what Colin is also doing, let me ask you, Colin, what about shadow? These clouds, they can also reflect a specific type of shadow that may be interfering. How do we control for shadow?
Yeah, that's so much good to evaluate on, because if we talk about the shadows, these are the shadow of the canopies. When there's sunshine straight up to the sky, when it's directed, it's always very difficult for us to get these spaces, actually the water pots, where there might be water, where the mosquito lay their eggs and hatch. Therefore, normally when we have come to do our analysis, we wait when there is, actually we come in the morning, or maybe when the sun has gone to the opposite directions of the shadow. So we are able to leave the shadow and concentrate on the other part of the spots.
So basically what we're saying is, because of the way the weather seasonally changes in these locations almost daily, that if we're not being able to get an acquisition in the early mornings, what you're saying, Colin, is that we could get it later on in the afternoon. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So also, in other words, we are able to see things that are off nadir or on nadir. In other words, we have a 90-degree capability.
Yeah, 90
and also a little bit off nadir.
Slanted.
Yes.
Yeah, that will really help us.
Yeah, so basically at the end of the day, what Colin is telling us is that regardless of where the habitat is located, regardless of the weather conditions, or regardless of the position of the canopy, that we were able to locate these habitats and map them in real time. This is really very important for the implementation of Seek and Destroy, because we don't want to look at Seek and Destroy as just at a particular moment. This is an ongoing, throughout the year implementation, a larval control mechanism. So, thanks to people like Colin, who is an excellent flight pilot, we're able to find these locations and map them in real time. So thank you so much.
And briefly, we can show you how this drone can go actually through the canopies. This is one of the samples of the canopies that we have in this area. So thereby we can direct the drone and we see how it behaves.
Okay.
See there, we have gotten a canopy. I lift it up a bit. I lift it up. I move it sideways. Then down. You see that space left? That's where I can maneuver and find my way out to locate those positions. I hope you are right there.
Oh, this is fantastic, because what we're really seeing here is that even those habitats that are below the canopy, that Colin is able to map them. So regardless of where we find the predicted habitats based on the interpolation from the video RGB analog data, we can find these habitats. This is incredible, because the more obviously our optimum is to find every single located habitat in this village. Hi, this is Ben Jacob here in northern Uganda. I'm doing my 4th series on drone imagery capture of anopheline habitats for malaria larval control. In this series, I'm looking at the feasibility of unmanned aerial vehicle-based photogrammetric data for mapping high-resolution topography and geomorphic features of intimately canopied anopheline malaria mosquito habitats, specifically off-nadir imagery. From previous sessions, we know that a drone can capture the signatures of specific anopheline habitats, regardless of locations. Some of our areas that we have so far done in Cambodia as well as here in Uganda, we have flown a drone over specific habitats to capture their signatures. The signatures are really reflected by red, green, and blue emitted wavelengths coming off the habitat, which we can capture at a 90-degree angle. To give you an idea, this is a drone flying at a 90-degree angle over a capture point. As you can see, the camera is pointed directly over the capture point. But things may be a little bit different if we have canopy cover. What then do? We can come at the drone using an off-nadir angle, which means it's no longer at 90 degrees. We're looking at maybe 83 or 107 based on the amount of canopy coverage. After that, by looking at the camera, we can see using our lenses that we can mobilize the camera in itself at different angles. In so doing, we have control of the drone RGB camera. If you look specifically at this particular photograph, you can see that the actual camera angle is off-nadir. It's no longer at a 90 degree. In so doing, we're able to now capture different anopheline habitats, specifically those that are now covered by canopy. As you can see, these are breeding spots of Anopheline gambia in pastureland areas. We were able to capture these points using an off-nadir angle from the drone. So now we can use drone surveys using a DG Phantom 4 camera to acquire the RGB images of canopied habitats. And this is really important because canopied habitats are common, especially in malaria endemic areas. We can use and program different apps in order to control the angle of the camera. Hence, we can do so by using an app. In so doing, we can now look at the camera from different positions. By looking at the habitat from different angles, we now acquire a more specific RGB angle or RGB signature of that particular habitat. We're now looking at different type of equipment that would be necessitated in order for us to acquire that type of imagery. In other words, what do we need to capture an off-nadir angle from a drone of an anopheline habitat? This here image is of an app using an iPhone. An iPhone can capture that data because we can control the camera of the drone while in flight. This is very valuable because while doing so, we are now able to computate the actual resolution of the data as well. Here we have a particular formula that I've been using for actually capturing the ground sampling distance. We refer to that as GSD. If I am to acquire the absolute resolution of an off-nadir angle acquired habitat, I would use this particular formula. GSD is equal to PCK times H. The GSD, as mentioned, is the ground sampling distance. P would be the sensor pixel size. In this case, my pixel size was 0.31 meters. My off-degree angle for this one was 83.7. And then that would be multiplied by the actual altitude, which would be acquired using the app. So now, regardless of the angle of the camera, regardless of the canopy coverage, regardless of the season, we can now mobilize that particular camera to capture that canopied habitat. So, in so doing, we can actually computate the RGB values. This is very specific for particular capture points. Since we're taking that capture point and interpolating to find other capture points that are similar, we are now, it is vital for us to be able to capture those type of wavelengths. Here we have some drone flight plans in different areas. If you look specifically at this particular image, you can see areas where the red font is actually labeled. These are canopy locations. These are areas where we would have to stop the drone and then mobilize the camera off-nadir in order to capture the particular points. So, in so doing, we can now see that we can capture a signature of any anopheline habitat at any time of year. This is vital because we know that malaria transmission occurs annually throughout. So, in so doing, by using a drone, we are now being able to absolutely capture signatures that we can interpolate in real time. So, as we move forward, we can now see that we can use a digital elevation three-dimensional model to actually determine where we need the off-nadir angles. As you can see from this image, which is a 3D image, we have specific areas that are nadir, in other words, 90 degrees, and then the specific areas which are off-nadir. We can capture the resolution of these areas as well. This is vital, because otherwise we would not capture a particular signature of a particular seasonal habitat, especially if it's hyperproductive. So, an unmanned system data, we can plan for the logistics using a drone, we can plan for the flights, we can capture any habitat at any given time. So we find that at the end we are able to plan and fly the drone regardless of the environmental conditions and regardless of the size or the dimensions of the habitat. We can plan to come in using wayward coordinates of GPS points to particular sites of interest for capturing that anopheline habitat. So, in so doing, we're able to now look at different habitats that are canopied seasonally. We can then determine which are productive and hyperproductive, for example, or if they are aquatic or non-aquatic, and which always is the case, and then we can interpolate these particular signatures. Finally, we're able to ground truth these habitats. In so doing, now we would know where to treat. We can prioritize treatment, whether that's insecticide treatment, using a drone because it has a payload of about 30 pounds, or we can use soil substrate in what we call seek and destroy in order to nullify or neutralize these habitats. Thank you very much.